You think you're trading to make money. That's what you tell yourself when you wake up and open the charts. That's the narrative you repeat every time you click buy or sell. This is a calculated move, a rational decision, a step toward financial freedom. But deep down, something doesn't add up. Because if this were just about money, you wouldn't be checking your P&L 10 times an hour. You wouldn't be sitting there, heart pounding, eyes bloodshot, waiting for the market to validate your existence. You wouldn't be snapping at your loved ones after a red day, or lying awake at night replaying one trade over and over like it was a crime scene. Let's be honest, this isn't about money anymore. It's about identity. And that's exactly why you're stuck. You're not trying to trade. You're trying to prove something to yourself, to the world, to the ghost of someone who said you'd never be enough. And the market knows it. It knows every time you over-leverage because you need to feel something. It knows when you ignore your stop because you can't stand being wrong. It knows when you close a good position early because profit feels safer than patience. It knows when you're revenge trading, not to win back capital, but to win back dignity. The market is your mirror, and it's brutal. Every mistake you make isn't random. It's a pattern, a blueprint, a reflection of your emotional blueprint. Most traders think they have a strategy problem. They don't. They have a self-awareness problem. You've probably heard the cliche, trading is 80% psychology, but most people hear that and nod like it's some motivational quote. You don't realize what it really means. It means the outcome of your trading career has almost nothing to do with how smart you are, how much you know, or how many hours you've spent studying indicators. It has everything to do with whether you can sit in discomfort without self-destructing. Can you watch price go against you and still breathe? Can you sit in drawdown without trying to force a comeback? Can you accept a loss without assigning it moral weight? Can you execute your plan with zero dopamine attached to the outcome? If the answer is no, then you're not a trader. You're a gambler wrapped in self-deception, and no amount of knowledge will save you. That's why so many smart people fail in trading. Engineers, doctors, data analysts, they all come in thinking their intellect will carry them through. But trading doesn't reward intellect. It rewards emotional discipline. It rewards the ability to let go. And letting go is terrifying when your identity is glued to the outcome. So here's the truth nobody told you when you started. You don't lose money because of bad trades. You lose money because you can't lose well. You lose money because you need to be right, because you're addicted to control, because somewhere along the way, you tied your worth to a green number. And now you can't untangle yourself from it. But here's the good news. That same market that exposes you can also heal you, if you're willing to look at it not as a battlefield, but as a mirror. If you stop asking, how do I win? And start asking, who am I when I lose? This isn't a trading problem. This is a transformation problem. And the deeper you go into that, the more everything will start to change, even your results. They told you trading was about freedom, that you could escape the 9 to 5, make money from anywhere, and live life on your terms. They didn't tell you it would cost your peace of mind. They didn't tell you about the spiral, about the way you'd open chart after chart, system after system, devouring every book, every YouTube video, every Reddit thread, convinced that the missing puzzle piece was just one more strategy away. They didn't tell you that knowledge can become a trap. Here's the first lie you need to confront. If I just learn more, I'll stop losing. It sounds logical, but it's a myth, because trading losses aren't always caused by lack of knowledge. More often, they're caused by emotional hijacks, moments when you know exactly what you should do and still don't do it. That moment when you say, just this once. That moment when you say, I'll exit early to protect profit. That moment when you say, I deserve this win. You didn't forget your plan. You abandoned it. Not because you're stupid, but because you were scared, or angry, or bored, or chasing validation. And no amount of additional information will fix that. The second lie is just as dangerous. Success means never losing. You've been conditioned to believe that real traders always win, that once you're good, the losses stop. That mastery means constant green. But in truth, the best traders are not the ones who avoid losses. They're the ones who absorb them without identity damage. They lose with grace. They cut quickly. They let go. And they win not because they're perfect, but because they've made peace with imperfection. The beginner avoids losses. The master processes them. Because here's the secret nobody puts in the courses. You will lose. A lot. Not just early on. Not just in a drawdown. Losses never leave. They evolve. The difference is how you respond to them. Whether you spiral or reset. Whether you attach meaning or move on. That's where real edge is built. Not in setup precision. In emotional recovery time. The third lie? The problem is out there. The broker, the spread, the news, the Fed, the algo, the whales, the stop hunt, the time of day, the market maker, the guru. We've all been there, looking for the external enemy. But here's the harsh truth. Most of the time, the real enemy is internal. It's your inability to follow your own rules. It's the unconscious trauma that turns a red candle into a personal insult. It's your addiction to being right. It's the emotional blind spot you've been protecting with excuses. Markets don't care about your feelings, but they will surface them. And if you keep outsourcing blame, you'll never build control. Because blaming the market is easy. Owning your reactions is hard. And that's why most traders don't improve, not because they lack tools, but because they refuse to look in the mirror. The fourth lie, the right system will save me. This is the trap of optimization, of tweaking endlessly, of system hopping, of thinking the next course, the next backtest, the next edge will finally make it click. But it never does. Because the truth is, most systems work. If you work them. The breakdown isn't in the entry or the exit. It's in the execution. It's in your ability to do boring things with religious consistency. It's in your tolerance for pain and ambiguity. It's in your willingness to hold when you want to bail, to cut when you want to hope, to wait when you want to act, to follow rules even when every part of you is screaming to break them. No system can give you that, because systems are mechanical. And that friction between your logic and your emotions is the real battlefield. So here's the reframe. Trading success is not about finding the right method. It's about building the right mental architecture. Discipline is not self-punishment. It's self-protection. Rules aren't shackles. They're armor. Losses aren't failures. They're data. And edge is not in the market. It's in you. You need to stop thinking like a student looking for answers and start thinking like an operator mastering execution. The traders who last aren't the smartest. They're the most stable, the most detached, the most emotionally self-aware. They don't chase perfection. They build process. They don't avoid pain. They train their nervous system to absorb it. And they don't pray for green days. They show up, rain or shine, because their self-worth isn't tied to the P&L. That's the shift you need. From seeking outcomes to building systems. From reacting emotionally to responding intentionally. From obsessing over signals to obsessing over consistency. Because when your psychology is cracked, the best system in the world will break under pressure. But when your psychology is grounded, even a simple system can outperform. So the next time you lose, don't ask, what did the market do? Ask, what did I do? That's where the answers live. That's where growth begins. That's how you reframe the lies and reclaim your edge. You think you're logical. You believe you're a rational, thinking human being who makes decisions based on data, analysis, and careful planning. But your brain has other plans. Because the moment you enter a trade, something ancient wakes up inside you. Something primitive. Something older than your charts, your strategy, your capital. Your brain doesn't see a candlestick. It sees a threat. To survive in the jungle, our ancestors evolved one critical mechanism, fight or flight. When faced with danger, their amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster deep in the brain, would light up like a flare. It triggered a full-body alarm system. Heart rate spiked, vision narrowed, breathing shortened, adrenaline flooded the bloodstream. That same system still exists inside you. And the moment you experience uncertainty or loss, it activates. This is the amygdala hijack. It's why you freeze when price spikes against you. It's why your hand trembles on the mouse. It's why you click close too early or hold on too long. It's why your breathing changes, your pupils dilate, and your mind starts spinning. You think you're trading, but your brain thinks you're being hunted. In a 2022 case study, a professional trader's heart rate was monitored during live trades. During a large drawdown, his resting heart rate, normally 65 BPM, spiked to 138. That's the same response as being chased by a predator. The trade wasn't just money, it was survival. And when survival is on the line, rational thought shuts down. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, and executive function, goes offline. Blood flow is redirected to the emotional brain. You literally become less capable of making sound decisions, which means your worst trades aren't strategy mistakes. They're neurological consequences. You didn't fail because you didn't know what to do. You failed because your biology overrode your training. This is why even seasoned traders relapse. This is why you can read every trading book and still panic in live markets. Because information is stored in the cortex, but pain is processed in the limbic system. And pain wins, but it gets deeper. If you experienced instability growing up, neglect, chaos, volatility, your amygdala may be even more reactive. Childhood trauma, especially emotional unpredictability, sensitizes the nervous system. Your body becomes wired to detect threat where there is none. It overreacts to ambiguity. It confuses uncertainty with danger. And trading is pure, unfiltered uncertainty. The market is not your enemy. Your nervous system is. Your brain, wired to protect you, ends up sabotaging you. It pushes you to exit early, to move stops, to overtrade, to seek control, not because you're weak, but because you're wired for survival, not mastery. And unless you rewire it, the cycle repeats, over and over again. You'll keep breaking rules. You'll keep seeking confirmation. You'll keep overanalyzing before entry and underreacting during exits. You'll oscillate between paralysis and chaos, because the real battle isn't on the screen. It's between your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala, between your process and your panic, between the identity you want and the wiring you've inherited. So how do you win a war against your own biology? You don't. You retrain it. Neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change, is your greatest weapon. But it doesn't happen through willpower. It happens through intentional repetition under calm states. It happens when you simulate pain in low-stakes environments, replay losing trades, feel the regret, breathe through it, train your nervous system that it's not death. Insert micro pauses before action. A 60-second delay before entry, a mantra before exiting, a breath before adjusting size. This gives your prefrontal cortex time to come back online. Practice third-person self-talk. Say your name out loud. John is about to break his rule. This detaches the action from identity and re-engages logic. Journal emotional triggers. Not just entries and exits. Log how your body feels, where the panic shows up. Over time, you'll see patterns, and patterns can be disrupted. Train outside the market. Breathwork, meditation, cold exposure, anything that puts your nervous system under controlled stress builds tolerance. You're not just training discipline, you're training your vagus nerve. This is the hidden layer of edge. Not what you know, but how well your body can stay calm in chaos. Because in the end, trading isn't just cognitive, it's somatic. It's stored in your muscles, your breath, your reactions. And unless you address that, you'll always be playing the same movie, no matter how many times you change the script. The market will trigger you, your brain will hijack you, and you'll sabotage your own edge, again and again. But if you train the response, if you slow down the moment between stimulus and reaction, if you teach your nervous system that red candles aren't lions, then everything changes. You stop overtrading. You stop forcing wins. You stop fearing losses. You start executing, even when it's hard. And slowly, your edge becomes internal. Not just in strategy, but in state. You become the calm in the storm. You become the operator, not the reactor. You become the person your process requires, because the war never ends. But now, you're armed for it. Every trader starts with good intentions. You tell yourself you'll be disciplined, that you'll follow your system, that this time, it'll be different. But the moment the chart starts moving, something else takes over. Something familiar, something emotional, something ancient. Because you don't just sit in front of a trading screen as you. You sit there as an emotional archetype, a hidden persona born out of old patterns, unhealed wounds, and unconscious scripts. And until you see it, you are it. So let's meet them, the identities traders unconsciously wear, and more importantly, the one you're meant to evolve into. This is the trader who holds on, not because it's logical, but because it might turn around. They refuse to cut a loss. because the loss feels like failure. They hope, pray, stare at the screen as if sheer willpower will reverse price. They say things like, it'll come back, it's just a pullback. I'll give it a bit more room. What they're really saying is, I can't face being wrong. Hope becomes their drug and draw down their prison. The revenge sniper, every loss is a personal attack. Every red candle is a challenge to their ego. They don't just re-enter, they reload. This trader sizes up to get back at the market. They abandon all logic driven by rage and shame. They say, I'll make it all back in one trade. But what they're chasing isn't recovery, it's revenge, and it always costs more than the original loss. They don't trade charts, they trade dopamine. They check their account balance every 5 minutes. They feel high on green, worthless on red. They obsess over gain, not execution. They trade their self-worth as often as they trade setups. You'll hear them say, I'm up $300 today, or I blew it, I'm such an idiot. Their emotional state is completely tethered to the number on the screen. They don't need a better system, they need detox. The pattern hoarder, this one lives in learning mode, always watching webinars, always tweaking the strategy, always backtesting the next edge, but rarely executing, because they're terrified of the emotional weight of real risk. So they hide in information. They mistake knowledge for progress. They say, I'm almost ready, just need to refine this entry. I'll start trading live next month. But the next month never comes. The performance imposter. This one wins, but hates themselves after losses. They feel like a fraud if they're not green. They can't handle drawdown because their identity is fused with performance. They avoid journaling bad days. They lie to themselves in data reviews. They disappear from communities when they're down. Why? Because losses expose the part of them that feels unworthy. So they avoid the truth and trade from a place of fear. The emotionally detached samurai. This one is rare. They trade without flinch. They execute without drama. They feel the loss but don't personalize it. They win without needing celebration. They journal their behavior with brutal honesty. They don't crave perfection. They pursue process. They aren't seeking identity through trading. They already have one. They are, at their core, a master of self. But here's the catch. They weren't born this way. They were forged in the fire of self-confrontation, forged through breakdowns and relapses, forged through choosing discomfort over dopamine, day after day after day. This is the trader you must become, not just to survive, but to transcend. So ask yourself, who do you become at the screen? What happens when the trade goes against you? What story do you tell yourself in drawdown? What identity takes over when you're red 3 days in a row? Because if you don't choose your trader identity, it will choose you. And most traders are unconsciously stuck in loops, not because they lack talent, but because they're emotionally role-playing. The hope addict never builds risk management. The revenge sniper never develops patience. The P&L junkie never learns detachment. The pattern hoarder never takes action. The performance imposter never feels secure. And all of them eventually burn out. The path forward isn't to shame yourself, it's to observe yourself. To name the archetype that shows up, to understand where it comes from, to interrupt it in real time, to rehearse a new role, one rooted in identity, not impulse, in process, not pride. So here's the mirror. What if your greatest trading problem isn't your system, isn't your setup, isn't your education, but the persona you default to under pressure? What if your entire career hinges on your willingness to shed that mask and put on the armor of a new identity? The process-minded strategist. This is the next phase. It's not a tactic. It's not mindset tricks. It's the inner role you rehearse until it becomes muscle memory. This identity trades less, but with precision. This identity journals everything, even the shame. This identity shows up the same, win or lose. This identity detaches from outcome because outcome isn't who they are. They don't trade to prove. They trade to practice mastery. They don't chase highs. They chase clarity under fire. They're not reactive. They're responsive. And every decision they make is rooted in one quiet, powerful question. What would my highest trading self do in this exact moment? That's the question that rewires your brain. That's the moment you stop becoming a prisoner of emotion and start becoming a student of process. Because in the end, trading doesn't just reveal who you are. It reveals who you've rehearsed being. You've heard it before. Discipline is the key. But no one tells you how to build it when your hands are shaking and your brain is screaming to close the trade. They say, control your emotions. But they never hand you the manual. Because mindset isn't a switch you flip, it's a system you build. Discipline isn't motivation, it's mechanics. And emotional mastery isn't talent, it's training. So this is the missing piece, a toolkit for rewiring your trader mind. Not theory, not cliches, but battle-tested psychological tools forged under pressure that you can implement today. The circuit breaker protocol. This is your last line of defense against emotional hijack, because the truth is, most bad trades don't happen gradually. They happen in a 5-10 second window of impulse, where the emotion spikes, logic dies, and your finger clicks the mouse. The solution? Interrupt the pattern. Before every major action, entry, exit, size increase, you insert a pause, a literal physical pause. Here's the protocol. Stand up from your chair. Say out loud, I am your name, and I am about to do something stupid. Breathe. Ask 3 questions. 1, is this based on my system or my emotion? 2, what would I tell a student to do here? 3, if this trade fails, will I regret the decision or the discipline? Then, and only then, you're allowed to act. You will be shocked how many bad decisions die in that 60-second space. It's not weakness, it's design. And it saved 6-figure losses for traders who implemented it. The shame wall. This tool sounds brutal. That's because it is, but it works. Every time you break a rule, take a revenge trade, double size, move a stop, overtrade, you screenshot the chart and pin it to a folder titled My Cost of Emotion. You don't do it to punish yourself. You do it to witness the pattern. Over time, this becomes a visual graveyard of your sabotage. And something clicks. You stop seeing bad trades as isolated accidents. You see the emotional fingerprints, the revenge, the tilt, the greed, and you start recognizing them before they happen. You build awareness through exposure. You build accountability through visibility. And you never forget what emotional trading really costs. At 3, third-person self-talk. When you say, I'm losing, I can't handle this, your brain hears threat. You become the emotion. But when you say, Alex is losing, he needs to follow the plan, something shifts. It creates psychological distance. You stop identifying with the chaos and start managing it. Research shows third-person self-talk reduces cortisol, restores logical processing, and boosts emotional control. It sounds awkward at first. Do it anyway. Your trading doesn't care if it feels weird. It cares if it keeps you in the game. Top 4. Loss rehearsal. Most traders rehearse winning in their heads. They visualize profits. They imagine success. But that's a trap, because the brain doesn't know how to handle the opposite. So when a string of red days hits, you panic. Loss rehearsal flips that. Once a week, you simulate a full losing session. Pull up charts from a losing week. Replay every trade. Feel the sting. Walk through it with intention. Write down what you did well, what you repeated, what needs to change. Then, and this is key, you go trade your sim account with the goal of losing. That's right. Set a small fixed account and practice taking clean, planned losses. Not recklessly, intentionally. You're not training to lose. You're training your nervous system to stop fearing loss, because fear of loss is what causes breakage. But if loss becomes neutral, a data point, you unlock real edge. Top 5. Journal architecture, the 3-journal system. Every trader journals. Few do it right, because most journals are filled with numbers, entries, exits, screenshots. Useful, but incomplete. You need 3 journals. 1, execution journal. This tracks your system. Entry, exit, time of day, setup tag. Did I follow my rules? What did I ignore? 2, emotional autopsy journal. This is where the real work happens. How did I feel before the trade? What was I trying to prove? What triggered that exit? What physical sensations did I notice? 3, identity mirror journal, reviewed weekly. What archetype showed up this week? What did I rehearse, chaos or clarity? Am I trading to perform or to process? This trifecta builds feedback loops. You stop trading blindly. You start observing yourself, and over time, your data stops being just numbers. It becomes a map of your subconscious. 6, before execution. Professional athletes don't just show up to the court. They warm up, they stretch, they prime their nervous system. Traders? They roll out of bed, open a chart, and expect precision. You need a pre-market ritual, something consistent, grounding, and repeatable. Example, 3 minutes of deep breathing. Visualize one clean trade, not a win. Read one mantra. I am not here to win. I am here to execute. Review top emotional triggers from your shame wall. Set one intention. Today, I trade for identity, not outcome. When you ritualize the start of your session, you shift from emotional randomness to intentional presence. These tools are not quick fixes. They're habits, protocols, discipline devices. You build them before the storm, so that when volatility hits, you're not improvising. You're executing the plan that protects you from yourself. Because here's the truth. You don't need more indicators. You don't need another YouTube strategy. You don't need more trades. You need systems that keep your identity intact under pressure. Because once your identity is stable, your execution becomes inevitable, and your edge becomes unshakable. You've heard the theory, you've studied the tools, but deep down, you're still wondering, does this really work? Does anyone actually survive the chaos inside their head? So let me take you to the battlefield. Not the one with candles and charts, the one with heartbeats and breakdowns. Because no transformation is real until it bleeds, until it costs something. And in the world of trading, no story cuts deeper than that of Tom Hugard, the man who learned how to lose. Tom wasn't average. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't new. He was a well-educated, high-performance, highly analytical trader who still lost $127,000 in a single session on a trade where he was right. Yes, he predicted the move. He called the direction. He read the market perfectly, and he still got wiped. Why? Because he needed to win. He chased. He scaled in. He watched price whip around, and he couldn't let go. It wasn't logic that failed. It was ego. That day broke him, but not in the way you think. Because instead of quitting, he surrendered. Not to the market, but to the truth. My need to win is the most dangerous addiction I've ever had. That was his turning point. And from that breakdown came a new obsession. Not with winning, but with becoming the kind of trader who could lose well. He realized that edge wasn't in setups. It was in emotional reconditioning. He rewired everything. He built a 60-second delay button. Before any trade, he had to wait. He'd say out loud, I am Tom Hugard, and I'm about to do something stupid. That one phrase saved him hundreds of thousands. He constructed a shame wall, a gallery of screenshots of every impulsive revenge trade. Not to punish himself, but to track the emotional fingerprint of failure. He started simulating loss. Every week, he'd fund a $500 account and intentionally lose it. Why? To train his nervous system that loss wasn't death. Over time, something shifted. His hands stopped shaking. His reactions slowed. The panic dissolved. Because he no longer feared loss, he practiced it. And that changed everything. But the most profound shift came in his identity. At one point, after a long winning streak, Tom bought a new car. The license plate read, Trader 1. He wore jackets with his brand. He told the world, I'm successful now. Then came a 6-month drawdown. Every day, he walked out to the driveway and saw the plate mocking him. That's when he understood. He hadn't just traded. He had merged his worth with his P&L. And that was killing him. So he did something radical. He stripped the labels. He stopped calling himself a trader. He started referring to himself in third person. The system is in a drawdown, not me. The setup is underperforming. I'm not broken. The trade failed. I didn't. He even changed his passwords, made them affirmations like, I am not my P&L 123. Bit by bit, the wires in his brain untangled. He detached, he stabilized, and for the first time, he executed without ego. He also hired a therapist, not for trauma, but to unpack why he couldn't hold profit, why he always overtraded it, why he cut winners early and held losers with prayer. Turns out, these weren't market mistakes. They were emotional residues from childhood, moments of abandonment, patterns of seeking validation, fear of not being enough unless he won something. The market wasn't just triggering him, it was mirroring his wounds. He started journaling differently, not just trades, but feelings during trades. He tracked physical responses, rapid breathing, jaw tension, sweaty palms. He began to recognize patterns. Overtrade days equals loneliness the night before. Cutting winners equals fear of disappointment. Hesitation, flashbacks of being wrong as a kid. The more he wrote, the more he saw. And eventually he realized the market is not my enemy, it's my therapist. He even recreated historical crashes in simulation. He built what he called a war room. He downloaded old data, the 2008 crisis, flash crashes, volatile weeks, and replayed them like combat drills. He didn't just practice setups, he practiced his nervous system. Breathed through losses, took entries in chaos, logged emotional spikes, reviewed heart rate data. He trained his emotions with the same intensity others train entry strategies. By the time the next real crisis hit, he was calm, clear, neutral, because his mind had already been there. And through all of it, he kept repeating one mantra: I am not paid to win. I am paid to execute. That one belief rewired his identity. He stopped trying to be right. He stopped trying to perform. He stopped trying to impress the invisible scoreboard in his head. He became a machine of emotional clarity. Tom's story isn't about perfection. It's about surrender. The kind of surrender that breaks your ego, but rebuilds your edge. The kind of surrender that lets go of control and replaces it with process. Because in the end, he didn't beat the market. He beat the version of himself that couldn't handle it. And that's what this is really about. Not winning, but becoming the version of you who can execute no matter what. That's the real edge, and it's built in blood. Everyone talks about mindset. Few talk about maintenance. Because mindset isn't a moment of clarity. It's not a motivational spike or a quote you tape to your monitor. It's a system. One built brick by brick with routines, structures, feedback loops, and non-negotiables. Without systems, your discipline becomes a mood, and your confidence becomes a coin toss. So if you want to stop living at the mercy of emotion, you need to stop improvising. This is how you turn chaos into process. System over outcome. You were raised in a world that worships results, grades, ranks, P&L. So when you started trading, you brought that same mindset. Win equals good, lose equals bad. But here's the truth. That logic will destroy you. Because in trading, you can do everything right and still lose. And you can break every rule and still get lucky. So outcome is noise. The system is signal. You need to rewire how you score the game. Did I follow my rules today? Did I execute the plan I wrote before the trade? Did I act from clarity or emotion? That's it. 3 questions. Every day. No exceptions. Because the moment you shift your scoreboard, you reclaim control. And ironically, once you stop obsessing over results, you get better ones. 2. Daily intention setting. Every trading day starts before the chart loads, because if you open your platform without a mental anchor, the market will hand you one. Fear, greed, FOMO, revenge. So before the open, you set your identity. Literally, write it down. Today I trade with calm. Today I value rules over results. Today I am the operator, not the outcome. Then visualize, not winning, but executing during discomfort. See yourself passing on bad trades. See yourself cutting a loser with grace. See yourself holding a winner without rushing the exit. Prime your brain for the process, not the prize, because that 2-minute ritual can reset your entire trajectory. 3. Emotional logs over setup logs. You've probably logged every setup, entry, exit, ratio, time of day. But how often do you log? How your body felt? What emotion was present? What story your mind was telling you mid-trade? Whether you were trading to win or to feel better. Because that's the real data. Patterns don't just exist on charts. They exist in behavior. Maybe you revenge trade every Friday. Maybe you hesitate after a winning streak. Maybe you cut trades early when you feel tired or disrespected. You won't see these things until you track them. So start asking, what emotion was in control when I clicked that mouse? And build a log, one built on truth, not just ticks. Weekly pattern mapping. Self-awareness means nothing if you don't map the loops. So once a week, step back and zoom out. Review. Top 3 rule violations. Most common emotional trigger. Setup with worst execution. Trade you're most ashamed of and why. One identity shift you're rehearsing next week. Track over time. Look for cycles. Notice if you overtrade after personal stress or if red Mondays lead to revenge Tuesdays. This is how you catch your own sabotage before it starts. The goal isn't perfection, it's predictive awareness. Because if you can forecast your own impulses, you can build preemptive protection. K5, ritualized shutdown. Most traders stop when the last candle closes. Big mistake, because what happens after the session is where reflection happens. Create a shutdown sequence. Close all charts. Answer 3 questions. 1. What did I do well today? 2. Where did I let emotion in? 3. What needs reinforcement tomorrow? Leave one sticky note on your desk. I don't need to be right. I need to be consistent. This routine closes the loop. It tells your brain, the day is done, lessons logged, guilt released. Otherwise, you carry emotional baggage into the next session. And that's how streaks turn into spirals. 6. Build an identity dashboard. Systems don't just protect your process, they protect your identity. Because trading can erode who you are. Losses make you question your worth. Wins inflate your ego. Drawdowns feel like character attacks. So every month, revisit your identity dashboard. What do I stand for as a trader? What are my 3 non-negotiables? What would my highest trading self never do? What does success feel like internally? This isn't fluff. It's armor. It reminds you, you're not a setup, you're not a number, you're not the green or red on today's chart. You are a practitioner of discipline, a builder of process, a steward of mental capital, and when that identity is locked in, the market's noise can't shake it. 7. 1 week rule. Every trader should test this rule at least once. For 1 week, I will judge myself on only one metric. Did I follow my rules? I will not look at P&L. I will not count wins. I will not chase green. I will only score execution. It sounds simple, but it breaks people because they realize they're not process-driven. They're emotionally fused with outcome. This 1 week challenge resets your entire foundation. It shows you where your real addiction lives. It forces you to confront whether you're trading to win or trading to transform. Process is boring. That's why it works. It doesn't spike dopamine. It doesn't feed your ego. It doesn't care how you feel, but it protects your future. It gives you stability. It builds confidence, not in results, but in yourself. It creates consistency in an environment of chaos. So stop chasing perfect entries. Start building perfect routines, because charts don't make traders. Systems do. And your system isn't what you wrote down. It's what you actually execute under stress. That's your edge. That's your protection. That's your way forward. Take a breath. Step back from the charts. Step back from the obsession. Step back from the noise in your head that says you're not there yet. And ask yourself, who am I becoming? Because that's the real question. Not how do I win more? Not how do I avoid losses? But what kind of trader, what kind of person am I building with every decision I make? Most traders don't think in identity. They think in setups, in R multiples, in drawdowns. But every action you take, every click of the mouse, every moment of hesitation or clarity is writing code into your brain. You're rehearsing a role, and that role becomes your reality. You can rehearse chaos, you can rehearse discipline, you can rehearse addiction, or you can rehearse detachment. But make no mistake, every day, you're becoming something. So who is that? Are you becoming someone who needs to win to feel valid? Or someone who stays grounded in red days? Are you becoming a performer or a process operator? Because this game is rigged against the ego. If you need to be right, you'll crumble. If you need the win, you'll chase. If you need the outcome, you'll force trades, lie in journals, spiral in silence. But if you need nothing but execution, if you show up with calm, if you focus only on precision, if you detach from the scoreboard, then you become rare, unshakable, inevitable. So here's your challenge. It's not flashy, it's not sexy, it's not dopamine fueled, but it's transformative. Write this on a sticky note. I am not my P&L, I am my process. Put it on your screen and live it for 1 full week. That's it. No tracking wins, no obsessing over daily results, no punishing yourself for losses. Just one question, over and over again. Did I follow my process today? If yes, you won. If no, you get to learn. Either way, you're moving forward. This is where real traders are born, in the boredom, in the neutrality, in the quiet confidence of showing up and executing with fanfare, without panic, without story. It's not always exciting, it's not always fun, but it's always real, and it will take you somewhere no strategy ever could. You're not the same trader you were when you started this journey. You're not the same person. You faced the mirror. You've seen the addiction to winning, the fear of loss, the lies of perfection, the sabotage of ego. You've tasted the high of victory and the burn of self-betrayal. And still, you're here. Still searching, still showing up, still willing to evolve. That's what makes you dangerous, because most people quit when it hurts. You decided to listen instead. And now you get to choose to stop chasing and start training, to stop performing and start practicing, to stop proving and start becoming. From this point forward, your mission is simple. Become the trader your system deserves. Not one who needs motivation, not one who disappears after a red day, not one who relies on willpower, but one who is grounded, one who is consistent, one who is free. Because the real goal of trading isn't money. It's freedom from the emotional patterns that have ruled your life for too long. It's mastery, not of markets, but of yourself. That's who you are becoming. One trade at a time, one journal entry at a time, one moment of stillness in the storm. And if you keep going, if you keep honoring the process, one day you'll look up, not to see a green P&L, but to see a reflection you finally respect. That's the win. That's the edge. That's the trader you were meant to become.